Welcome to the third installment of our look back at our travel year. This was our first stop in Southeast Asia, Bangkok. A chance to get settled in the warmth after the fall in Barcelona was dragging on a little long than we would have liked. Welcome to Creative Wandering, the home of videos for dailycreatives.com, where I'm trying to answer the question, how to design a lifestyle you don't need a vacation from. We covered 4 continents, 19 countries, and 35 cities. Now we are happy to be back home in Canada. Check out dailycreatives.com. 2 times per week I will update the blog with interesting perspectives, cooking, projects, designing a life I don't need a vacation from. Then it was time to get out on the water, one of the best ways to get the lay of the land. Bangkok is in the Chao Phraya River Delta in Thailand's Central Plains. The river meanders throughout the city in a southward direction, emptying into the Gulf of Thailand approximately 25 kilometers south of the city center. The land is flat and low-lying with an average elevation of only 1.5 meters above sea level. Most of the area was originally swampland, which was gradually drained and irrigated for agriculture via the construction of canals, which took place throughout the 16th to 19th centuries. The course of the river as it flows through Bangkok has been modified by the construction of several shortcut canals. Our boat tour meandered through it all for a blissful 2-hour ride. Here are my top 10 tips for thriving in the rainy season. Number 1, don't forget the bug spray. With each downpour, which soaks the ground to a flooding point, the mosquitoes will be on the hatch. Fiesta for the creatures who eat bugs, but not for humans. Certain things like dengue, we could not get vaccinated for. Number 2, carry portable shelter, otherwise known as an umbrella. But these are not just rain showers, they are often thunderstorms, so make sure all the components are plastic. Number 3, forget the flip-flops in the city if only some of the streets are paved. Sidewalks might not really be a thing, at least not what we're used to back home. And the red-colored dirt is pretty much everywhere. Some people carry inside shoes along with them. Number 4, embrace the do-rag. Forget the blowouts. The humidity is off the charts, even if it doesn't rain, so just go with the tropical style. Number 5, seek out the water, be it in the beach or a pool. When the rain lets up and the humidity is soaring, beat the heat and the bugs in the cooling water. Number 6, enjoy the heat. This is the land of endless warmth. Get the right mix of a breeze, the sun, refreshing drinks, and the hours will slip away. Number 7, in this part of the world, the huge amount of water fuels life, producing some of the most amazing fruits and vegetables. Don't be afraid to try out these staples of the diet here in the tropics. If we get any of these babies back home, they won't be as wonderful as they are here, steps from the source. Number 8, the rain feeds life in the jungle. The different types of plants, trees, animals, and birds are a delight. We even had a zebra dove nesting her baby on the ledge outside our window. They managed to keep nicely out of the rain, and they coo us awake in the morning. Number 9, be adventurous, ride in a tuk-tuk. It seems crazy, chaotic, even dangerous to the uninitiated, but it's not, really. It's more of an organized type of random movement. Best to sit with your back to the forward motion if you are a worrier. Number 10, the vibe in the tropics is chilled out. It's time to slow down, kick back, and stop worrying about what time it is. Be happy, smile, and laugh. Let this life feel relaxed and stress-free. It is impossible to properly prepare for a tour of the Angkor Archaeological Park. The scale of the temples, the various civic structures, and the ruins are beyond comprehension. All of this was built without any modern equipment or engineering knowledge. And it's hard to believe that archaeologists believe this area supported the population of up to 1 million people, making the vast territory of Angkor the most important civilization of its time in Asia. We broke our first week of touring into 3 days. We started at 9 a.m., had a nice breakfast, and took the 7.2 kilometer trip by tuk-tuk out to Angkor Thom. We entered the 9 kilometer square complex through the south gate, and there are 4 of them which we could choose from. The first thing you see is almost a banister of divas on the left and asuras on the right. Each row is holding a naga in the attitude of tug of war, which appears to be a reference to the myth of the churning of the sea of milk. A causeway spans the moat in front of the tower where the 8-meter-high walls are built using laterite, buttressed by earth with a parapet on top. The faces on the 23-meter-high towers at each of the 4 city gates are later additions to the main structure. Next, we headed over to North Kliang, a rectangular set of sandstone buildings of unknown purpose on the east side of the Royal Square in Angkor Thom. Kliang means storeroom, but it is unlikely that that was the function of these structures. A royal oath of allegiance is carved into the doorway, indicating that they may have served as reception areas, or even housing for visiting noblemen and ambassadors. We loved these ruins. While there is little left standing or restored, we had the space to ourselves, which left us ample time to wander freely and imagine what life was like at the end of the 10th century. Then, our tuk-tuk driver suggested we head over to the terrace, which meant we left the sanctuary of the trees to behold the platform from which the king would view his victorious returning army. We were in the full sun and had to start waiting our turn to view various parts of the site. Most of what remains are the foundation platforms of the complex, which was used as a giant reviewing stand for public ceremonies and served as the base for the king's grand audience hall. Towards either end are the 2 parts of the famous parade of elephants. Back into the forest for Fruitless. Built at the end of the 10th century in the Kliang style, we would check out the gate at the entrance to the temple grounds, but the main structure is closed off from exploring. This Hindu temple is in the shape of a 3-tier pyramid. On top of the pyramid there is a tower, while on the edge of the top platform there are galleries. Our tuk-tuk driver instructed us to head towards the back of the site and enter the next temple from there. As it turned out, we were doing the whole tour backwards. Streams of people were going in the opposite direction, so we were kind of swimming against the tide, which was really nice. Otherwise, we would have been in a long queue. We entered Bathon, which was built in the mid-11th century from the back. It is another 3-tiered temple mountain dedicated to the Hindu god Shiva. Evidently, it was described back in its day as the Tower of Bronze, a truly astonishing spectacle with more than 10 chambers at its base. Then, in the late 15th century, Bathon was converted to a Buddhist temple, including the addition of a 9-meter tall by 70-meter long statue of a reclining Buddha. The temple was built on land filled with sand, and due to its immense size, the site was unstable throughout its history. Large portions had probably already collapsed by the time the Buddha was added. By the 20th century, much of the temple had largely collapsed, and restoration efforts have since proved problematic. One of the features for tourists are a couple sets of extremely steep stairs leading to the top tiers of the temple. The climb is not for the faint of heart. You cannot be afraid of heights in any way, but the view of the surrounding area is pretty awesome. By this point, we were getting really hot and had to wait in line for the pleasure of climbing to the top. As the saying goes, last but not least, probably my most favorite temple is called Bayon. Built in the height of the Khmer Empire in the late 12th or 13th century as the official state temple for King Jayavarman VII. After his death, it was modified and augmented by later Hindu and Theravada Buddhist kings in accordance with their own religious preferences. Bayon's most distinctive feature is the multitude of serene and smiling stone faces on the many towers which jut out from the upper terrace and cluster around its central peak. The outer wall gallery features a series of bas-reliefs depicting historical events and scenes from the everyday life of the Angkorian Khmer. Efforts to read some significance into the numbers of towers and faces at Bayon have proved problematic, as towers have been added through construction and lost to attrition over the years. At one point, the temple was host to 49 such towers. Now only 37 remain. The number of faces is approximately 200, but since some are only partially preserved, there can be no definitive count. One thing is for sure, it is a bit overwhelming. Every time you turn around, there is something else to look at, making Bayon a visual mystery. Our second tour day was at the granddaddy of them all, Angkor Wat. The expansive temple complex is the largest religious monument in the world. It was originally constructed as a Hindu temple of the god Vishnu for the Khmer Empire, gradually transforming into a Buddhist temple towards the end of the 12th century. By now, you will see the pattern for the temple building at Angkor. Other buildings were constructed by kings who wanted to please their Hindu gods. Later renovations, additions, and structures were devoted to Buddhism. But the whole effort, which required a massive amount of human labor, only benefited a few. Very few normal people ever graced the halls of these sacred buildings, which is quite a contrast to today when the numbers of tourists are overwhelming. Angkor Wat is the best preserved temple of them all, as it is the only one to not be abandoned. Even today, it is not uncommon to see working monks. It has become a symbol of Cambodia, appearing on the national flag, and it is the country's prime attraction for visitors. This is the one temple complex where there are splashes of color, playing against the stark shades of gray. There is also the highly anticipated sunrise, which draws a fantastic number of tourists out of bed every morning. We decided to visit around 2 p.m., late in the day by temple touring standards. The crowds were somewhat smaller. We even found a small corner of the library and had a little rest, all to ourselves. Our third day took us back towards Angkor Thom to the temple of Preah Khan, which was built in the 12th century for King Jayavarman VII to honor his father. Located northeast of Angkor Thom, it was the center of a substantial organization with almost 100,000 officials and servants. The temple has been left largely unrestored, with numerous trees and other vegetation growing among the ruins. After negotiating with our tuk-tuk driver, it was agreed that he would drive us to Tanai, rather than letting us walk. Located deep in the jungle of Angkor, this is an ideal temple for the adventurous traveler. No surprise, this was Grant's favorite spot. The handful of wanderers that visit Tanai are not hassled by peddlers or interrupted by the voices of excited travelers. The temple rewards them with the same charm that affected the early Angkor explorers. Archaeologists have left Tanai as it originally was, for the most part. Tree roots split open the temple stone, and jungle flora sprawls out across the temple grounds. Tanai has been the object of minimal reconstruction and clearing efforts. Our third day of temple going wrapped up with Ta Prohm, or the Tomb Raiders Temple, made famous by the Angelina Jolie movie. Ta Prohm is in much the same condition in which it was found. The photogenic and atmospheric combination of trees growing out of the ruins and the jungle surroundings have made it one of Angkor's most popular temples with visitors. The temple's stone and wooden slab records show that the site was home to more than 12,500 people, including 18 high priests and 615 dancers, with an additional 800,000 souls in the surrounding villages working to provide services and supplies. The temple amassed considerable riches, including gold, pearls, and silks. Our fourth day was spent at a complex known as the Fruitless group. These are some of the earliest permanent structures built by the Khmer. They mark the beginning of the classical period of Khmer civilization, dating from the late 9th century. Lole was our first stop of the day, and we found it in poor condition. The temple towers were constructed with brick, and only small carvings and reliefs were made of sandstone. Originally, the towers were enclosed by an outer wall with access through a gopura, but neither the wall nor gopura have survived to the present. Today, the temple is next to a monastery, just as in the 9th century it was next to an ashrama. Next up was Prayako, which consists of 6 brick towers arranged in 2 rows of 3 towers, each perched on a sandstone platform. The towers faced east, and the front central tower is the tallest. The sanctuaries are dedicated to 3 divinized forefathers of Indravaraman and their respective wives. There is an active restoration going on, financed by the German government. While this site is also constructed in brick, the sandstone carvings have survived the passage of time a little better. Then, the mighty Bakong, the first temple mountain of sandstone, constructed by the rulers of the Khmer Empire. In the final decades of the 9th century AD, it served as the official state temple of King Indravaraman I. Bakong enjoyed its status as the state temple of Angkor for only a few years, but later additions from the 12th or 13th centuries testify that it was not abandoned. Though the pyramid at one time must have been covered with bas-reliefs, carvings, and stucco, today only fragments remain. Large stone statues of elephants are positioned as guardians at the corners of the 3 lower levels of the pyramid. Statues of lions guard the stairways. This has been the best history lesson a person could ever ask for. But I think there is a price for our footsteps here that we have not paid for. I've been careful to take photos which are pretty much devoid of people, patiently waiting for my turn in the hot sun. What we have not shown are the hordes of tourists. Some temples are far less crowded than others, but it is important to understand the load of people before you set out. And it makes me wonder about the sustainability of it all. I'm not sure what the right way is to manage this treasure, but over time, things will have to change. For now, we had free access to anything we wanted to see, which ended up being 10 different temple sites. With our 7-day pass, the price was a mere $72 each. Such a small price to pay for a rewarding experience. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to head over to dailycreatives.com. See you over there.